All right, welcome back to the Fast and Slow podcast. This is episode number 6. I'm Nick, and with me as always is Nate. Nate, how's it
Hey,
going, man?
good, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah, I got the hood up, so doing some slow. Uh,
Nice,
got
finally.
my MSD ignition box that I'm
All right.
working on the wire and harness for. Uh, actually was gifted to me by Tim Talbot, the guy that I was on this podcast. Like, just super cool dude. I've mentioned him before, but this was a hand-me-down part, and so I'm test wiring it right now just to make sure it works, and then I'll hardwire it in, to its final home. But
So you're going to be
it's
able to
pretty.
like bench test it somehow?
Yeah, I mean, there's like super long wires that I'm gonna um, have everything wired up. Basically, the way the MSD works is you remove the ignition module,
hmm
and then like this takes place of this, and so you just have to. I had to buy a separate wiring harness to hardwire into the distributor, and then
Okay.
that plugs into the box. So,
Have
uh,
you have you never had an MSD box before?
mm-mm, no,
I've never
I just
messed with them
have.
either. I figured though with the history of the Camaro that you would have had one.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, I've always, I've never really needed it, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not like super cheap either. So, um, hopefully this works. And really, I'm just using it for the rev limiter, which I
Yeah.
think I talked about that last time, but it's
hmm
the pills.
Yeah, let me see that.
Yeah. So this
Oh,
one's
okay.
75, sev-
Fuse-esque.
7,500.
Yeah.
But I bought the 3,000 on the 6,000, I think is what I got. But yeah, so we'll see. I'm hoping it cleans up the idle. I think we talked about it last time, but
Yeah.
just a cleaner burn is what I'm
Yeah.
expecting. So
Hmm.
uh yeah, so that's about it. We're going out of town to go house hunting in St. Louis. So I'll probably finish
That's
this when I get
exciting.
back. Yeah. Yeah. Hoping to, I don't know. I think the price range for a three-car garage is just outside of
Yeah.
what we're
You're
looking at.
gonna I don't know what you're in for, but I hope, well, even if you do experience what we experienced, then there's solutions.
Hmm.
Uh, but we
Yeah.
found the same problem. It was, yeah, of course I want a three car, but like we said in on one of the other episodes, the correlation between how many garages and how big the house is,
Hmm.
I don't know. So it's linked
Yeah.
somehow in not a favorable direction,
Yeah.
unless you get like a rural setup with a pole barn or something. But
Yeah. And I think just having a basement and then I'll have a shed if one comes with that, or the house comes with the shed, or I'll build one. Just get in, like, you can see,
mm,
rakes
yeah,
and just shit that,
yeah,
doesn't need to be in a car garage.
yeah.
Get that stuff out of here. I get a lot of crap too because my wife's got her wreaths, like her holiday wreaths,
Yeah, oh
hanging
yeah,
up above the
yeah,
car. So it's
yeah.
that stuff can go in the basement when when we get there.
We've done pretty good with that stuff, but it's always it's always going to be a thing. Like I've got plenty. If I showed you around, there's plenty. It's a blend. There's kids' toys. There's
Hmm.
plant pots for plants, and I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
You gotta roll with
gotta
it.
go, gotta go somewhere. So, but
Let's see what's under the hood. I don't know that
yeah, let's
I've seen pictures and I've seen videos. I'm not sure I've seen.
I guess I should move the microphone so that it can still hear me. Yeah, so this is hard
Nice.
because it's inverted on the
That's all right.
Zoom. Let's see,
I can see it.
let's go like this is why I'm not a pilot. Yeah, so there's a 383. As you can see, the brakes are pretty old. The master cylinder is ugly compared to the rest of the car. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's got ceramic coated headers, Edelbrock air gap intake. It's fun. It is fun.
very nice.
It
And
is.
what kind of power do you think? What's or
Uh,
advertised maybe if you haven't dynoed it?
yeah. So when you buy from Blueprint Engines, so I'll plug them. Uh,
Yeah, if you're
maybe
happy
one day,
with
if,
it, yeah,
yeah,
shout
maybe one
out.
day if I, go LS, and they hear this and they're like, yeah, yeah, that Fast and Slow podcast. We really liked your promotion. We'll give you an LS for free. Actually, I'll show you. So they dyno each crate engine, and I don't know if you can see the thing on the wall. It's about as close as I can get. So
There you go. Yep.
yep. So that's the dyno that
Okay.
they give you.
Nice.
So that's yeah. Peak torque is 480 foot-pounds, and peak horsepower is 459, and so that's at
Dang.
the crank.
Yeah.
So I think conservatively, I assume 400, 410 torque, and right about there horsepower at the wheels.
Nice.
Uh, I'd like to think maybe it's stiffer with frame ties, and I don't know. I'm sure there's some engineers out there that are like, nope, it's 10, 20% or 15% uh,
Yeah.
power loss or
And
whatever. But
how much does a Camaro weigh? Do you know?
it's like 30. I haven't weighed it in a while. I think between like 33 to 34. So
I'll get you there.
yeah, there's literally no shortness of junior seat power. Like
Yeah.
I don't really actually know what I would do with more
With
horsepower.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty well established now, but the idea of like 1,000 horsepower in a road car,
Hmm.
plenty of people do it. It's totally possible, but the idea that somebody having that as a goal, especially if you're like a novice or an amateur, is
Hmm.
that's a lot of power.
It is, yeah. I've never driven anything
I
uh that
mean, yeah, nothing
fast,
close.
But my thing is like this thing, granted, like it's the ratio to power to grip. Right
Mm,
now I'm overpowered and undergripped, and I know like you add four links and 315s, and
yeah.
yeah, then that 400 wheel horsepower probably is like maybe a little more. So, but
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. Yeah, I don't see even like getting an LS. Like everyone's like, oh, you shed so much weight. It's like you do. Yes, I agree, but uh, I'm happy with this torque monster. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I give you props for not going LS yet.
yeah.
It would have been so easy, quote unquote. I say that, but I'm I might get some heat from this. I love LSs, but I'm tired of seeing them.
Hmm.
You
Yeah, I
know.
think one day it'd be cool to like get a purpose built like day two drag car, put
Yeah.
this 383 in that, and then LS swap this because for consistency and just in the aftermarket world for ECUs and stuff for
Yeah.
LS, it's insane. So like if this becomes a track monster, I would love to have an LS because you know, it's just how it's done,
Right.
nowadays.
Right. Yeah.
But if like a 70 Nova is probably one of my favorite body style muscle cars. And so I could
Yeah.
get something like that, throw
Yeah.
slapper bars on it, put a 383 back in it. I'll probably, I'd love to drop the compression and put a blower on top. I think
Supercharge it. Yeah.
that'd be dope. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's about it. This thing's got to get back together by I think June 8th is the next autocross event. So
All right. You got a
fingers
minute.
yeah, fingers crossed this works. And if not, it's a bunch of screws that put the module and all the ignition parts back into the distributor. So
I'm looking at a calendar here. Oh yeah, you got time.
yeah, well, we're gonna be out of
Oh, you're
town for
traveling. Sorry.
that's the only downside. So I'd have about a weekend, but
Hmm.
uh yeah, I mean honestly, like I won't do it before we leave because I got other stuff to do. But if I spent 45 minutes to an hour, I'd have no more wiring, and this thing would probably start. So
Nice.
yeah. So
Excellent.
well, man, what are you doing? I saw looks like your carburetor's back together and
Yeah, I got so I'm this like I said, the bug is kind of my first taste of carburetor and all that, and I'm really enjoying it actually.
hmm
I thought for sure the biggest problem was this vacuum leak and misjetting of the carburetor.
Hmm.
So once I fixed the vacuum leak, all of a sudden it was crazy rich. And then I found that really, really fat jet and a carb. And then it kind of all clicked. I was like, the shop had this before I got my hands on it, misdiagnosed the vacuum leak and just threw fuel at it to
Hmm.
make it happy. So I
Yeah.
was like, Eureka, that's got to be it. Got the carburetor, everything back together. Took it for a quick little test drive, and it still had this crazy. It would start and it would idle, and then you like pull away from a stop. So like it's a tiny engine, so medium load, even if you're just being casual,
Hmm.
and from a stop, and it would sputter and backfire and cough,
Hmm.
and it was acting like it kind of was with the vacuum leak, I thought. And I was like, well, that was really disappointing. And I was like, well, I'm gonna finish what I was doing. I knew I wanted to do like a full service, front to back,
Hmm.
everything that I got like a Volkswagen repair manual, and there's everything it says to do to tune it up, like every year, every 2 years. I'm
Hmm.
gonna do everything. So inevitably, that led me to the distributor and the points gap. So I'm glad you were talking. This episode's gonna be all about ignition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I've never messed with really in depth with a distributor
Hmm.
and points gaps and all that, and uh, why they are what they are, and how, you know, the, the inner workings of a coil and all that.
Hmm.
Well, lo and behold, I don't know if they used like a Chinese distributor. I don't see any markings or name brands on it, but the point scrap was like 4 thousandths.
Hmm.
The spec says it needs to be like 20 thousandths.
Oh.
Way too close.
Hmm.
So my understanding of how an ignition coil works and everything was basically that tight gap may not have let the coil fully discharge,
Yeah.
and you end up with a super weak spark.
And there goes all your rich fuel just
Yeah,
unburnt.
unburnt.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and you go to give it some gas coming away from a stop, and you probably just totally drown out the spark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Huh.
then so on and so forth. So what was even more interesting was when I went to open the gap up, I couldn't. 4 thousandths was as open as it would go. There's a little slot where you move
Yeah.
the, I don't know what the thing is technically called, but you go to loosen the
Hmm.
screw and open up the gap and move
Hmm.
its little mounting location,
Hmm.
and you can't. The slot was it was maxed out. So even
Weird.
if the shop did notice that, they probably said, "I'm stuck. I can only do what I can do."
Yeah.
Right or wrong, I fixed it with a Dremel tool.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just opened that slot up, the 10 thousandths or so that I needed. It was really kind of with a Dremel tool. Sounds like a lot, but it was really just a whisper.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Um, we got the gap that I wanted, and in the middle of doing all that, I checked the valve lash and all these other things, changed the oil, did
Hmm.
replaced a handful of gaskets and um, things like that. Started it up, and it was like, there it is. Took it for a test drive, like whacked the throttle a little bit. I had to
Yeah.
tune some of the like accelerator pump adjustments
Hmm.
to give it a little bit less fuel, and it was as snappy as it could be. It was snappier than I've ever experienced it since I've owned it.
Yeah, man, it sounded really good, real
Yeah,
snappy on, you know.
there. It's also my first experience with an engine that's like solid roller, or not even roller. It's flat tappet,
Hmm.
solid. So I followed the recommendations of that repair manual, and it said to open up, keep the valve lash at like, I think it was 7 thousandths, which some people would probably say is too much, but I
Hmm.
guess the logic is, well, these motors in particular being air cooled and their configuration,
Yeah, it was
the
like,
cylinder heads tend to get hotter than
hmm.
maybe anyone would prefer.
Hmm.
So that extra valve lash keeps the valve on the seat for just a little bit longer and
Does it get,
stops the valves from overheating and burning up.
is it clanky at like cold temps?
Yeah,
And then it just kind of, I
it
mean, that proves the point, right?
yeah. So that's what I was going to say was it's weird to hear that much clatter. And I don't know that it all
Hmm.
came through on that video that I posted on Instagram, but
Not
there's
not too bad.
there's quite a bit of clatter, and I that video was with it pretty cold. It wasn't warm at all. I just literally
Hmm.
came out to the garage, started it, made sure it could idle without me babying it,
Hmm.
and then I went back there and took that video. So it was pretty cold,
Yeah.
and that clatter might go away a little bit, but it still does clatter even when it's warmed up. And I'm wondering if maybe this is me getting probably a little bit too much Nat's ass with it, but maybe like do it again and do it like 6 thousandths or something. But
Yeah.
it's not the easiest thing to do either. There's a lot of with the feeler gauge and everything. I mean, there's some operator error that could be introduced.
Yeah. And yeah, I was thinking about it because I figured, I knew I was going to talk about ignition and I saw that you'd replaced or, sorted your ignition and carburetor out. I think the most frustrating thing for me with carbs is like in ECU, you can plug a computer to it and you can look at your fuel map and your
Hmm.
AFR and you can like see on a map the differences that you made and the adjustments you made.
Yeah,
With carburetors, I get it. You can put an O2 sensor, you can get,
you
you
could.
know, there's things you can do,
Yeah.
but like the old school guys that can just like, uh, uh
Yeah.
that's that's egg smells like eggs. Put a jet
Yeah.
at it. It's like
Yeah.
how the hell do you I
I
can't
so
do that.
no. I mean, I've been doing following a procedure that it um really uses like idle. I mean, Volkswagens are such an aftermarket and a following that everybody knows. Everybody says, "Oh, put the
Hmm.
130 or the 135 in there. That's all you need." And set the accelerator pump to like max if you've got this distributor
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So I haven't had to do any real troubleshooting. I've mostly gone with the settings that people recommend. And
Hmm.
then when that didn't work, I went top to bottom with kind of a tune up and found the distributor issue.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of it is like, oh, you turn the screws to get a fastest idle and
Hmm.
off to the races you go. Like, so am I super rich when I'm cruising down the road and give it full throttle? Probably. I kind of
Yeah.
hope so. I'd rather be rich than lean,
100%. Yeah.
but
Yeah,
uh,
they on mine it has like idle air mixture screws.
mhm.
So they're two banks, left and a right side.
Yeah.
And when you adjust those, you set your idle first, so like your target RPM, and then you put a vacuum gauge on I want to say the manifold side. I can't remember. One of the two vacuum ports on the carburetor.
Hmm.
And basically you're trying to close the screws, which leans out the idle while maintaining your RPM and get in the max vacuum you can,
Right. Okay.
right? It's just like okay, basic carbs, but that's how you do it on the Edelbrock.
Yeah.
And like I get that concept, but like the product, I don't have a do the thing equals
Yeah.
this is what it's doing now. Other
Yeah.
than it sounds right. I guess my vacuum gauge and my RPM, like those are the two things that are saying it's right.
Right.
But maybe it's oh, maybe it's a generational thing. Like if they showed it on a CSV file that I could import into my computer, then I could just be like, oh yeah, I totally trust that.
Yeah.
But it's an
I
analog vacuum gauge.
yeah. For the bug especially, I have the luxury of I don't care. Like
Yeah.
honestly, if it's as long as it's drivable, like it was so bad before that it was dangerous to drive. Like
Mm,
I was stalling all the time
yeah,
and I had
yeah,
zero. I knew, and I didn't know what to expect. So when I bought the car, I knew that it was obviously slow. It's a 1600 cc car, whatever.
yeah.
But I was alarmed at just how slow, and I'm sure that was because of the poor tune-up. So
Hmm.
now that I'm feeling, what I think is supposed to be 60 horsepower or close to
Hmm.
it. I'm like, okay, it's doable. It's much more comfortable. It's
Yeah.
still the slowest thing on the road, probably by a long shot. But um, before it was like you got that feeling that people were like breathing down my neck. Like people were like, "Come on, like go,
Yeah,
like the
it's
light's
not a
green, like move."
yeah, that's
So
not a
now I
good
think
feeling.
I can accelerate even if I have my pedal to the floor. I think it's an acceleration that people would expect in modern day cars.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
You should be able to go. 0 to 40 in a reasonable
in
time.
in the yeah expected amount of time,
Yeah.
like, and I don't think I could do that before, and it made it in the beginning it took a lot of the fun out of driving it. It was like
Yeah.
I just been cruising around the neighborhood trying to sort out some bugs, and now I'm like, but the next thing is to get tires on it and make sure
Hmm.
the brakes are cool. I'm gonna get on the road and see, do 50 miles an hour, and see what it feels like.
Yeah. So you're gonna
Um,
go with like Coker tires, or what's the
I've got these.
plan?
I ended up going with let's see if I can grab one.
Oh, you bought them already.
Yeah,
Nice.
I can do this because everything's so small in this car. They're Michelin
Oh my God. Are those like 195s? 185s?
165. But look
Hell
how
yeah. Little
they're
pizza
skinny and they
cutters.
got kind of the OG
Oh,
tread, like,
that's cool.
they're they are. I did go with radials. I was this close to going bias ply,
Hmm.
and
Nah.
that's what's on it now is bias ply,
Damn.
and would not recommend. I
Yeah,
know I'm not. It's a 78. It's not like it's what I would call like an antique car.
hmm
It's almost uncomfortable to call it, you know, it is a classic, I guess. But even then, it's like if you're in a crowd with people that are talking about their like 50s cars,
Yeah.
it's like, so to put like vintage tires on it didn't feel totally necessary.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to have the wife and kids in it and stuff. I don't want whatever that called where it wanders all over the road right the way it is now with bias supplies. It
Hmm.
follows every little crack and groove in the road.
Yeah. I mean, those things are just, you have to,
Yeah.
if you're going to drive it at, for any time, like, yeah, you're going to want to put good tires on it. So, um,
Yeah. It felt like the right thing to do.
yeah.
Let's see. And then what's next? Oh, here's another interesting thing I found. I thought I was screwed for a second. Part of my tune-up was an oil change,
hmm
and I thought I noticed this before, but I thought, oh, so I guess for you, I don't know if you know this, but for everybody, I'm partially colorblind, if not mostly colorblind.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So when I checked the oil, I thought it looked kind of green on the dipstick.
Mm.
I was like,
Hmm.
could be anything. It's probably me. I pay very little attention to things that appear an off color because it could just be me.
Yeah.
So, but this time I changed the oil and saw it in the container, and I was like, that is undeniably green.
hmm
I'm not only that, but I'm like looking at it and it's glittery.
Uh,
I'm like, that
mm.
cannot be good.
Yeah.
What the Google machine helped me figure out is break-in oil.
Did they rebuild the engine?
Yeah,
Like,
I knew that it was a mostly new engine, if not brand new,
hmm
but it was done like I thought. So at this point, so I bought it in the fall, probably a year before that. So it didn't make sense that there should be still be break-in and oil in there, but
hmm
I also, when I bought the car, he gave me all the receipts and the notes from the shop, and I can see where he had taken it back a couple times because he wasn't happy with how it was driving.
hmm
And if he had the experience that I did when I first drove it, so he's not super mechanically inclined. He probably parked it. I bet it hardly
Yeah.
got driven in the last since the engine got changed. He got it
Mm.
back. He took it back a couple times because he wasn't happy with how it was driving. Totally understandable if it's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I bet it got parked. So that was I bet that engine was barely broken in.
How many miles I mean, do you think they broke in the cam? Because if it's a flat tap,
I assume so.
okay.
I've put um probably put 30 miles on it.
Okay. Yeah, the flat tap it can break in. You just don't want to be at a steady RPM. Like you don't want to go on a highway for
Sure.
hours. You
Oh,
want
it doesn't do that. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I'd say just continue to do that type of driving for,
Yeah.
you know, the next oil change, the life of that oil.
Well, I took so I drained that out and I put regular oil in.
Or I guess what I mean is like between your next oil change, I would just
Yeah.
think
Oh
of it
yeah.
as like I'm breaking this engine in because I
Yeah.
think it's new.
It's very unlikely to see highway
Yeah.
ever. And that's another thing too, is I don't have any RPM gauge whatsoever.
Ooh.
So I don't even I don't even play that
Yeah.
game. I shift when it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Although this makes sense too. People say to like, oh well, you can hang out at the top of a gear for a little while,
Hmm.
specifically because it's an air cooled engine. If you're high RPM, light load, probably
Hmm.
helps you a little bit, keep things cool, keep the fan spinning fast.
Yeah.
So they say don't be in too big of a hurry to shift with the air cooled bugs.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I buy
Which
that if you have a clutch driven fan, I assume.
no, it's direct drive off
Or
the
that's what I mean. Sorry, like off the engine.
yeah yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
it and then the gear it's a 4 speed and the gears are pretty tall, so it's easy to do.
yeah.
Shifting to it's hard not to do that honestly because
Hmm.
if you shift when like you feel like you should if you're not used to 4 speed maybe you end up too low.
Yeah.
The
Does it
gears
have
don't
like
overlap as much.
does it have an oil pressure gauge or light? Like idiot light?
It does have an idiot
Okay,
light.
that's good. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my thing with this when I got the new engine. It was the most expensive thing I've ever purchased for a car for this car.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to have really, really nice gauges. So I did the auto meter, uh,
Yeah.
well, everything. And having an actual oil pressure gauge is really
Yeah.
nice to see.
Yeah.
So, in fact, you can see in my third run or my final run, sorry, last event, I was in a sweeper and I was like, this is the tightest I've ever been in my entire life. And you could see my head go from looking ahead at the course to looking at my gauge because I'm like, oh no, am I
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
starve
How
it
much
for
before
oil?
you yeah, that's a real concern.
Yeah, I don't think I'm there yet. Uh, but
I'm sure there's a baffle in the pan and everything to help you.
Mhm.
In autocross, hopefully you're
Yeah,
never sustaining that kind of lateral force for long.
no, I think, yeah, before I do a track day, I would look into like oh shit, what's it called?
There's like a AccuSump.
Yep, AccuSump.
It uses
It's
like
probably
a
solenoid. I think when it drops below a
yeah,
certain
it's got
pressure.
it uses the
Yeah.
oil pressure. It fills the sprung. There's like a sprung
Hmm.
piston in there. It fills it with
Yeah.
oil, and
Yeah, I
then
think
it
then
just kind of uses
it's
that as a
yeah, it's like a pressure induced solenoid. So if it
yeah,
gets below a certain thing,
yeah,
that's probably what I do before, you know, dropping the pan, putting a baffled pan. Um, because on this thing you have to pull the engine to do it right. And
right.
I'd rather do AccuSump than pull the engine. Yeah.
Oh, that. Ugh, ugh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. So tires mounted soon, I assume.
Yeah, I'm preferably this week. There's the only quote unquote event that I've got my eye on is a work related function where people are going to drive their fun cars on a Friday,
Yeah.
weather permitting. So
Hmm.
it's not this Friday, but it's next. So
Cool.
my plan is to get this thing on jack stands, get the tires off, take them to get changed, and then I'm hoping my problem with the brakes is just a flush. I'm hoping there's air. The pedal's super squishy,
Eh.
and I'm hoping it's just air.
Yeah. What was
At
the master
worst, it's a
cylinder?
master cylinder.
Yeah.
I really hope not, but time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably been sitting for a while, so could be. But
It has, and
yeah.
I've looked at the brakes already, and the pads, everything's great. The pads look,
Hmm.
there's plenty of meat left on I'm sorry, the shoes. It's got
Shoes. Yeah.
drums. Uh, all that looks good. So it was honestly it was always stored inside, but very, very rarely driven. And so it was kind of neglected in that
Yeah.
aspect. I'm hoping it's just some air that's in it.
Yeah. The only thing I'd be careful with, and I would just maybe inspect them, but the wheel cylinders, if it's been sitting, you know, you might have.
Oh,
So what I would do first is check to see if you have any leaks at the wheel cylinder. Uh,
yeah,
but what I'd be mainly concerned in is like getting in a hairy situation where you have to like stand on the brakes and you actually put a lot of pressure on the cylinder or
yeah,
cylinders, depending on that'd be like my only, you know, piece of insurance if
yeah.
you're really concerned about it, especially if you're going to be bleeding the brakes anyway. Uh, I don't know how hard it is to get to the wheel cylinder. It's probably
Pretty,
just like
pretty
pull
easy.
the yeah.
You take the drum off and everything's kind of right there.
Yeah, so that might be worth peace of mind insurance.
Yeah.
Um,
What, to replace the wheel cylinders?
yeah, just because you knew it's been sitting and those
Yeah,
seals might have gotten uh, crummy or
yeah,
hard. So
yeah. I should do that.
just a thought. I mean, you're probably good to like
Yeah,
go to your work event, but like if you're in traffic and
I'm half tempted to. Yeah, yeah. Part of me wants. I'm going to avoid using the word restoration, but part of me wants to redo all the brakes, like you
hmm
said, just
yeah,
to be sure. I got a good look at the lines under the rubber lines underneath, and I was satisfied with how those looked.
okay,
But even still, especially if I'm gonna, like I said, I want this to be a thing where I can just no questions asked, no concerns or doubts,
hmm
hop in, go drive it somewhere around town
yeah,
and
yeah.
not have any trouble. So yeah,
That
I need to look
that's
into
what
it.
I would do. I got a little scared with mine. I think both backs were going out, but the pedal was getting soft and softer and softer to the point of like to the
Did
floor.
you find a
And
leak?
yeah, I didn't find it till I was putting the car on the trailer after an event. And I looked and it was like
Oh,
dripping down to the wheel to the tire. And I was like, ah, shit. But so
hmm.
I had somebody, that was the opportunity I took I put new axles, wheel bearings or axle bearings. I had a
Yeah,
shop like redo redo all that stuff for me. That was just a little more of
perfect.
a project that I wanted to bite off. Um,
Yeah.
so
Hmm. Yeah, more to come on that. I'll see
yeah,
what I'm gonna have. It'll be a good time to do it. Like I said, I'm gonna get a good look at all four brakes, bleeding them.
yeah,
I have one of
I,
those little power bleeders from Motive, I think, one of those little hand pump.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Plan on using that.
cool. Yeah, and I think for our recording schedule, it'll be a couple weeks, I think, before I can get back since we're going to be out of town next week. So maybe
All
that'd be a
right.
good update for the next episode.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have pictures of it out of the garage.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome, and I could try to incorporate that into. We said we were going to do pictures, but dude, it's until I get a new computer, it's so hard to do
Yeah,
all those things. The worst is when you
a lot of
export
moving
this
parts.
thing, not to get too peek behind the curtain, but like you export this video and it takes hours because I'm on a MacBook Air.
Hmm.
And then you're like, shit, it's wrong. Or like
Oh no.
the music starts at the wrong time and you have to do it over again. So we'll probably hold off on pictures, but
Yeah.
eventually we'll get back to it. So
Well,
anyway,
I appreciate you dealing with that.
oh
I could
it's fun. I kind of like it.
I'm yeah, I'm capable of nerding out on something like that, but
Yeah.
not right now.
I've gotten in a pretty good rhythm. So
Good.
but well, man, on that note, I think we'll keep it to about 30 minutes tonight. So you got
Sounds
any
great.
final words?
No, hopefully we're well kicked off into cruising season. I feel like I'm behind, so
Yeah, man. Go
gotta
get
go.
it. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you later.